Hey everyone, and welcome to What is the Big Idea Week 8. This is actually a quick one this week. We'll go right through it. So, getting into the what we're talking about is, again, we're still on the leadership challenge. We're working our way through the different areas. We've done model the way, we've done inspire the a shared vision. We're working on challenging the process and enabling others to act. Right. So if you remember, as we go through this, there's some, kind of really some tools that we can start to develop. There's some other things that we can start to do. The stories in the book, I think, are really good because they kind of really lead back to, what they're trying to accomplish in each one of these sections. So the leadership challenge, oops, jumped ahead one. So the leadership challenge is, so the first thing in challenging the process, right? So do something every day so that you're better than the day before. So thinking through, is there a place for that I can learn on how to do something? Is there a way that I can learn how to do it better? Continuing to grow within the job. So what ends up happening is a lot of people get into the leadership role and then they just stop doing anything that they were doing beforehand. So this is one of those times when you really want to actually start kind of challenging that process. Are we doing everything right? Is there a better way that we can do from it? Learning from experience is another one of the bullet points. So thinking it through and saying, okay, we did it this way last time. Is it the same way that we want to do it this time? Be adventurous. Don't let routine put you in a rut. So again, that's one of the problems that you have, and that's a problem that a team has, is the team starts doing everything the same way every day, and it just keeps going. The problem being is, I took over a team that was in a rut. It was in a routine, and it was underperforming. Right. So the first thing that you had to do is break that rut, and you got to, and that's difficult because, right, so there's a lot that goes into that. They have to, the team has to understand that you're trying to do something different than the way it was done before. And even though you're going to hear it, I remember I'd be on teleconferences, and one of the members of the team would say to me, well, I know you haven't been here a long time, but this is how we do it here. I know you haven't been here a long time, but this is how we do it here. So it was one of those that it was a very closed off, uh, this is just the way that we're going to do it, and I'm sorry, this is just the way we're going to do it. So kind of challenging that team to change the way that they thought, creating a climate for learning, right? So that's one of those things. We should always be trying to teach our team something new, bring something to them. I'm actually with my team right now. We're actually working through a book called the Catalyst, which will again end up in a future um, class. So probably not this semester with you guys, but in a future semester, we'll be utilizing some of the stuff from that book. But so that's one of those things where I went out and bought that book for everybody on the team. And each week we're working through one chapter of the book, and you think, oh man, that's slow, but it's very similar to what we're doing here. We're going through it, we're pulling out concepts, but then what we're doing is we're tying the concepts that the person's doing to the process that we have. And I could take that book and I could bring it to another whole company, and we could do it a whole different way, and it would be something different would come out of it. And even the way we do this class. So every year when we do this class, I take the feedback that you guys are giving. I try to comment on the work that you're doing, and that tends to give each class a little bit of a life. So it's different from year to year. So that's kind of that being adventurous, don't letting it getting into a rut. Can you do that with your team? Can you get it so that you're adding something or you're doing something different? You're doing it a little bit differently to see what happens. The other thing is setting incremental goals. So one of the things that I use is something called a SMART goal. And you might have seen these before. This is something that's becoming very popular, but it's something that I do with my team in business planning. So as we start developing the plan, then what I like them to do is break it down into a couple of these what we call SMART goals. And so SMART goals, it's an acronym, and it stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So what is that goal? What is specifically you want to do? And that's interesting because a lot of times people have trouble being very specific. I want to do this. Well, what specifically do you want to do that? Well, it could be this or that. Nope. Let's pick one and let's be very specific. Again, in sales, it's what account do you want to get into? What specifically account do you want to do? It could be for development specifically. What's that next step you want to take? Measurable. So that's another thing. How do we measure it? Right? Oh, we'll measure it by just knowing when we get there, and that's not it. We have to have a measurable. So here's our baseline. Here's where it's going to be. It could be anything. It could be, I know nonprofits are something that there's a lot of people here that in this class that like to deal with nonprofits. So again, measurable. What's that time frame that you want to be in? When I was working with a nonprofit in Bristol Warren, we had a school year, so all our goals had to be done within that school year. We took the summer we were off, and then we started with a brand new, kind of term that the next September. So everything had to be broken up into the school year. We also had events. We actually used to have two events in the springtime. We actually moved one to the fall. So we'd have a major event in the fall and a major event in the springtime. And then we started measuring before this, from this to here to the new year, from the new year to this event, from this event to the end of the year. So it made defined periods that we could put goals into. Attainable. So that's one of the things where, that's a good one to bounce off somebody. So this goal that I'd like to get to, is it attainable? And talking it through. What are the tools that I'm going to use to help me do that? Relevant. How is this relevant to, how does the goal align to your company's mission, right? So it could be the company, it could be the department, it could be your specific, is it a relevant goal that you could do? And then time-based, so your goal has a deadline. Remember, so we're just talking about how we measure it, and then we also put it on a time. I'm going to have this done by here. So specifically, this is what I want to get done. I'm going to measure it this way. I think it's attainable if I do it this way, and here are the tools I'm going to use. This is relevant to my company's goal or my department's goal because, and I'm going to have it done in this amount of time. So that's a SMART goal. So again, there's a lot of work on this. So it's something that if you're interested in SMART goals, let me know. I can give you worksheets that, you just kind of fill in the blanks and it helps you work it through. But this is something that you see a lot of companies using now. Then the next chapter that we had was the leadership challenge. The next chapter in the leadership challenge was an enable others to act. So this is where you start giving up some of the control that you have. So one of the things about being a leader is you've got to extend control. And here it says extend trust to others, right? So there's a big word, trust, and we're going to get back to that in a minute. But you got to make it safe for people to experiment. I always like to say, if I used to have a sign over my desk when I was in the retail that said, "Make a decision, right or wrong, we can fix it later." So what that sign was telling my people is, when I'm not there, I don't have to make every decision. You're smart people. You can make these decisions. I'm going to back you up if the decision goes wrong. That's what I used to always tell them. So, I still do that. As we're putting things together, I give my teams a lot of leeway to say, "Hey, I want you to run with it. But if you get into a bind, I'm going to be here to help you. I'm going to be here to back you up. I'm going to be here." But what I feel it does is it lets people grow and they get better at what they're doing because they're making decisions. And people like that. People like autonomy. And we're actually going to get that to next week when we start talking about motivational techniques. One of the techniques is autonomy. How do you give control over to people and let them do everything that they're doing, and getting to know your followers, right? So you should know the people on your team. You should know the people, and as many people as you can. I've told you the story about the manager of the department store who used to go around and he knew everything. I have a vice president of the company that I work now that I think a lot of, and that guy, we don't talk about territories. We don't talk about Boston Metro. We talk about the rep that I have in there, right? So he knows it down to the rep's name, and which is amazing. And when we're at meetings or we're at national meetings, he'll come up to me and say, "Introduce me to your team. Remind me who these people are. Come, let me meet these people again." And he wants to know everybody on the team. So he wants to even know, and that's, if you remember, I said it's only a couple levels up and a couple levels down. This is way, this is 3 levels up for most of my people, and that's an amazing thing that he has the ability to remember them, remember stories about them. When he sees me, we talk about things that we talked about in the past. He's really good about that. So again, trust. So to allow others to act, one of the things you have to do is you have to give away a lot of trust to them. So that's an important thing, is to build that trust early. So do you trust these people? Do you trust that team? Do you trust them to make these decisions? Are they going to make the decisions in the best interest of themselves, the best interest of the team, best interest of the company? Are they going to keep everything in general? what's going to happen if it goes wrong, right? Are you going to feel good defending them to somebody above you? So Stephen Covey is somebody who he wrote a book. As you can see, this is from the Servant Leader Institute. So again, another servant leader. And so he wrote a book called The Speed of Trust, and he came up with kind of these 13 behaviors of kind of building trust. So this is all the sort of things. So as you're trying to build this with your team, you're going to model this. You're going to talk straight to them. You're going to demonstrate respect. You're going to create transparency. I was on a teleconference today, and there was somebody had a question, and they said, I need to know why we're doing this, right? So going way back to Simon Sinek, and he said, and I said, I'll tell you why we're doing this, but do you want the company's answer or do you want my answer? Right? So all of a sudden, they're like, well, let's get yours first, and then we'll hear kind of the company. So we were able to talk about it. So, that's the whole thing. And as you can see, number 6, deliver results, right? So if this works right, you've got to be able to deliver results. Confront reality. If something's not working, you don't just sugarcoat it and let it go. You actually kind of go right to it and attack it. So, and then the last one, number 13, extend trust, right? So these 13 behaviors that you can do to create trust with your team. The 13th one is extending trust to your team. And that's a tough thing to do because sometimes you're a little worried about how it's going to go, but sometimes you just have to trust that you've helped and developed these people. And if you remember, we talked about the coaching model that I used, and kind of part of it goes is as you start doing these tasks more, you're giving away more trust each time because you're feeling like they should be able to do it. And then that really gets into that autonomy where they feel like they're doing the stuff for themselves. And that's really the important things, that they're making these decisions. They're fixing the small problems, that they're not even bubbling up to you. That's when everything is running really well. And then we have a couple of other things, some other talks this week. So Malcolm Gladwell on the left. So Malcolm Gladwell's written a lot of books. You'll hear a lot about him. He's got a great podcast. Actually, he's got a couple of podcasts that he does. So you're going to hear some story. He tells a lot of stories. So listen to the stories as he tells them, and then see how he's getting to the message. Because again, remember how people learn. They learn best through stories. So being able to do that. And you're going to see the same thing, the guy in the middle, that's Seth Godin. And the reason I put those pictures up is you can see they have tons of books between them. They've written a lot of stuff. So, there'll be some really good, you'll get some good insights on that. And then the Learning Leader with Don Yeager, again, another person who's done a lot of, he's written a lot of books on leadership. So you're going to be exposed to 3 kind of heavyweights in the leadership field. So again, hopefully if you have any questions, don't hesitate. Make sure that you put them in the box down below so that I can answer them on the deeper dive. And hopefully you guys are having a great week. Talk to you soon.